Everyone dreams of building their online business, moving to Thailand, waking up, walking on the sandy beach, looking at the sun, having the perfect weather all the time, working from their laptop and living the dream. I certainly did too, but in this video I'm going to share all the dark truths and all the things I didn't expect that happened when I built my business, when I moved to Thailand, and everything that happened from doing that. It certainly wasn't what I expected, and it nearly pulled me away from my bigger purpose and dream, and I'm going to share all of that in this video. And I started building my online business, trying to build my online business. It was fitness at the time, all of these different things, because my big thing, my big goal at the time, my North Star, was to be able to work from my laptop, travel the world and live anywhere I ever wanted. That was a big dream. That was the thing I was chasing, and it took me 5 years of working like day and night to make it happen. When I turned 21, I was finally able to book that one-way flight ticket. The first destination was Bucharest, and I stayed there for a little bit, traveled around Eastern Europe. Then I pivoted and then finally took the brave decision to go to Southeast Asia, which was the big kind of dream and the big pivotal moment, which it felt like my whole life was working towards. And it's funny because I remember the minute I booked that flight from I was in Bucharest, booked the flight from Bucharest to Southeast Asia, to Thailand and Bangkok in particular. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my mum. I didn't tell my dad until I was there, which is another story within itself. And I did it because I was thinking that I'm gonna make the brave decision. I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna burn my boats. I'm gonna have to move out there. I'm gonna have to level up as a person. I'm gonna have to all of these things to be able to grow, to move forward and become that kind of next person, that next evolution of the person I want to become. That was the big goal. That was a big dream, and I certainly did it. Like, I moved to Thailand at that stage of my life. I went there. I went to Bangkok first. I stayed there for a little bit, and here's all the things I didn't expect and all I didn't realize. But first, before I kind of go into that, I want to kind of share my appreciation for my gratitude for Southeast Asia, the country, the people, and everything there, right? I loved it. I loved the sun. I loved the weather, the food, the people, the culture. It was very much like what I expected, right? It was very much as to what I've seen on social media, the sandy beaches, the perfect weather, how happy people were in general, all the motorbikes going around, people being loud, being very busy, especially Bangkok in particular. Like, all of these things were there, and I took a lot from that. But here's a couple of things that not many people actually tell you. Firstly, I would like to say from that experience and making that decision, I definitely leveled up, I definitely grew, and I became more responsible as a person, right? Up until this point, I was traveling around Eastern Europe, and here's what no one tells you. Like, when I was traveling around Eastern Europe, there's always that thought in the back of your head, right? If things don't go to plan here, if my business collapses, or if I don't make enough money, I'm one £50 flight away from being able to come back to England, go back with my parents and be back to normal. When you're in halfway across the world, when you're in Thailand, when you're in Southeast Asia, you really can't have that thought in the back of your head, because you can go back, but you can't go back right away. And the flights are more expensive. Obviously, it's like £200, £300, £400 ticket for a one-way flight back to the UK. And you also... There's also other things, right? You have to be more responsible. Like, it's a non-negotiable. You just have to be more responsible. You have to be thinking for yourself much more, especially when you're someone like me, when you move there and you're a solo traveler, you're working for yourself, there's no one you can rely on. I've never really relied on anyone in my life, but like, all of these things, it certainly made me more responsible. I think in hindsight, it made me earn more money. It made me probably more aspirational, because I was posting content, living in Thailand, living in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, all of these places. And I think it definitely attracted people that wanted to work with me as a byproduct, because they saw what I was doing. They wanted to know how they could do the same for them. So I think it definitely did a lot of these things there. But here's some of the reality checks that I didn't kind of expect, right? The infrastructure in Thailand and Southeast Asia in general from my kind of worldview, isn't quite built the same way. Isn't built quite the same way as it would be in a first world country. Like, I've been to Dubai, I've lived in England. It's not quite built as a first, even in countries in Europe, right? It's not quite built like a first world country. So you'd have Wi-Fi issues at times. You'd have Wi-Fi issues at times. There wasn't that many kind of open, available co-working spaces that I could find anyway, especially in Malaysia where I stayed as well. Like, I couldn't really find that many kind of open co-working spaces. And the other side of things as well was it was actually more expensive than I imagined. So I was living in Bucharest. To be honest, in hindsight, I was pretty much spending the same money I was in Bucharest as I was in Thailand in hindsight, right? Obviously, the place was nicer. I had a swimming pool in both places. In one in Malaysia, I had a small gym. It wasn't really a gym. It's like the size of the studio. It's tiny, and it was more to it, but the cost was pretty much the same. So you're spending the same money, and there's these kind of stuff that you don't really expect. Like, you're spending the same money. People are always trying to, not always, but often people would see you as a tourist, and people would try and kind of like haggle you into spending more money, I think is the right word. So don't, like, if you are going to move to Southeast Asia or Thailand, one of the biggest pieces of advice I could ever tell you or give you is to not, please don't do this, is go in with the expectations of thinking you'd be spending less, right? Because I moved there and I was pretty much spending the same. I was thinking, I'll move there, the plane ticket's going to be more expensive, but I'll move there and I'll be saving money. It certainly wasn't the case, especially like relative to Eastern Europe. Like, Eastern Europe, for me personally, is like the best place in the world. Like, I love Romania, I love Bulgaria. I'm originally from here. Like, I'd happily spend like all my time here, right? So I love that side of the world, but the cost is very similar. And it's way closer, it's way more central. Like, from here I can go to Dubai, I can meet clients in Dubai, I can go in England very easily, right? So if you are going to move to these countries, do so, but just don't expect it to be much cheaper than Eastern Europe. So I think I was spending like £400 to £500 a month on accommodation, which is certainly cheaper than it would be in. It's certainly cheaper than it would be if I was staying in England, but it wasn't that much cheaper relative to Eastern Europe. So that's the first kind of big point to keep in mind. The second one as well to keep in mind is the reality that, for me personally, what happened when I moved to Eastern Europe and Bangkok in Thailand is I actually over time felt more kind of distanced away from stuff. So I was seeing like clients, for example, have events and stuff like that I wanted to go to, and it's so far away that I couldn't go back to England just to do an event. So I feel quite isolated on that side of things. And I think the second thing as well that got quite tiring for me is in Southeast Asia, you can't really stay in one place, from what I understood anyway, from my time and my experience there. You can't really stay in one place for longer than like 90 days, right? This is kind of how I saw it. And I know people have been to Bali, and even in Bali, from what they've told me, you stay 90 days, you have to go do a visa run, a border run, and maybe you can come back, maybe you can't. And what they were doing is like they'll go to Thailand for 90 days, and go to Bali, and they'll go to Vietnam, and then they'll rotate this kind of cycle basically for as long as they could. And to me, like, the ultimate happiness for me and the ultimate fulfillment for me personally is building like a business and being in the game of business. So for me personally, one of the most important things as a character trait, as a personality for me, is I'm very obsessive, and a lot of my happiness comes from being able to go to the gym, and then the rest of my time I pretty much spend 10, 12 hours pretty much at my desk in the studio, filming content, coaching clients, do basically a combination of these two things, right? Creating content, filming clients, driving things forward, building the systems, automation, like all of these stuff, right? That's where my ultimate happiness comes from. And ultimately, it took me going to Thailand, going there, to realize that my biggest North Star and my biggest happiness wasn't the traveling, it wasn't being in all of these different places and seeing the world and doing all of this. My biggest happiness was just playing the game of business and being in a place where I can be in the same routine, wake up at the same time, go to sleep at the same time, not worry about visa runs, not worry about changing a place every 90 days, not worry about seeing a cool mountain somewhere and doing all of this stuff. Like, I'm sure that has a time and place, and it's great. But for me, that didn't even give me that much fulfillment. I remember like a conversation I had in Malaysia as well while I was there. One of the short relationships I had in this time frame, she was a US girl traveling, I think, or something like that, right? Like traveling across a little bit. I remember she was like, "Oh, Plaman, you need to come with me to this mountain. It's gonna be so good. I'm going there for 4 days, and I'll come back, and it'll be amazing." And like, I genuinely got no like internal motivation to skip work and not work for 4 days and go to a mountain, right? And this is not saying that her way of doing things was wrong or different, but it took me actually having that relationship with her to realize that ultimately what brings me the most amount of fulfillment, the most amount of happiness, is just being able to sit down, lock in, and build the biggest possible business I could do. I could in my lifetime. So that's kind of what kind of full circle moment came for me. So it's a bit of a spiel. It's a few different conversations, a few big lessons. But I definitely don't think Thailand, Southeast Asia in general, is amazing if you want to build a big business. I think it's very good if you want to be a lifestyle kind of business guy and you want to coach some people online, like 10 clients or 20 or 50 clients, and just kind of rest, relax, chill, and not kind of push things too hard. If you genuinely want to push and you genuinely want to build your first 0 to 5k per month business as quickly as possible, you'd be way quicker, it'd be way more efficient if you just stay in one location, one kind of schedule, lock in for that time frame, maybe work with me to give you the guidelines and steps and accountability to do it, but you'd get there way quicker. You'd get way quicker if you do that. And then when you're there, when you're making 5, 6, 7k per month and you choose to do so, but don't look at it as an investment into your business, or don't look at it as like, when I move to Thailand, like my business is going to take off. When I move to Bali, my business is going to take off. It's just very much like a holiday. If you view it like that and you don't view it as like it's going to transform my business completely, you'd be way quicker to grow it and it'll be way easier to move things forward, right? So that's my biggest lessons from my time in Thailand and Southeast Asia. Would I like to go back? I would certainly like to go to Bali at some point. I've never been. I was very close to it, like in Malaysia, but I never went to Bali in particular. I know a lot of good business owners there, but if I'm completely honest and I'm completely transparent, there's no one I know of personally that's built a huge business in Bali. Like, again, I don't want to throw stones at anyone or anything like that, but my kind of big vision and big drive is to transform the online education space and basically help as many coaches and consultants as possible to take the expertise online and build their dream business. To do that, it's going to require being in this studio, in this place for an awful lot of time and actually build it. So I'm fully content, I'm fully happy in the mission and the journey and what's going to require to take there. So that's the kind of decision I made to do that. And yeah, take it as you will from this video, just my few honest thoughts on Thailand, on Southeast Asia. I see a lot of young coaches at the moment getting distracted by that side of the world. I've certainly been there as well. So I'm just giving you my honest opinion, my honest review on that side of the world, and I hope you take it as useful as possible. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, like how did you find it if you've traveled, how did you find Southeast Asia, how did you find Bali, Thailand, like if you've been to all of these places, if you like this more raw type of content, I don't really have anything here, I don't really have a huge kind of scripted video. I'm just having a conversation with you. If you like this kind of more conversational style videos, make sure to hit like and subscribe, because I do monitor this and it makes it easier for me to know what kind of content you want to see more of. So if you do find it useful, let me know and I'll do more, and I'll see you in the next one.